Welcome to Getting Defensive Thursday edition, presented by Gridiron Ratings. Your path to the title starts. Gridiron Ratings. Now, I'm your host, JJ Wenner. You can find me on Twitter at JJ Wenner or manning the main handle at Ride or Dynasty. With me tonight is Gridiron Ratings senior IDP analyst. You can find him on Twitter at the IDP Tipster, Gary Van Dyke. Gary, are you all ready for Canton?
Yeah, I am. We turned around, and I'm excited because we're going to go to the Bills-Lions preseason game tomorrow night, and then we're going to stay there in Detroit, head to Cleveland, go check out the stadium, goof off, and then go to Canton on Sunday. And then
that sounds like a blast.
Yeah. We just decided tonight, so I've been running around all evening trying to get things ready so we can leave in the morning. I'm excited to check it out for the first time. So, and JJ, you're going to be there. That's going to be cool.
I am going to be there. I'm lucky enough to be just going as a civilian, but I have the opportunity to be the auctioneer for the Kings Classic Auction Draft.
That is pretty cool, man.
I've been working on my bidding cadence. So we'll see.
I'm going to miss that, man. I wish I could. You're going to have to put a video. You're going to have to record it. Something.
We'll see. We'll see. Let's see how I do first. But Gary, also with us tonight, is one of the brightest minds in the IDP verse, writer for DFF, and you can find him on Twitter at Dynasty Trip Brebner. How you doing, brother?
Doing good, man. How about you, JJ? It's a crazy day, crazy times in the NFL. Excited to come talk football with y'all.
Yeah.
Crazy night in the IDP world. But before we kick off, remember to subscribe below for a chance to win the Gridiron Ratings Playbook, the only source you need for all of your fantasy leagues. We will draw one winner for every 25 new subscribers. So be sure to hit the subscribe button below. Gentlemen, let's get right to the news. I see Andrew Watts is in the comments already asking us about this trade. Joe Schobert is being traded to Pittsburgh. Terms have not been announced. Trip, you just found out about this about 2 minutes ago when Gary and I told you. So what are your initial reactions?
Holy cow, is my initial reaction.
You was working late, right? That's it.
Say again?
You was working late. You had no idea.
That's right. I got home and sat down for a minute, cracked open a beer, jumped online and ready to talk football. We seriously got something to talk about. So, but it's interesting because I think that I don't remember if it was on this pod. It might have been that I talked about Jack being a little bit better fit for Joe Cullen's defense than Schobert. And here it is. I saw something I was getting ready for this. I just sitting there on looking at some depth charts because, as y'all know, the teams have all released some preliminary depth charts. You never know how much to make of that. But one thing that really stood out about the Jags depth chart is their starting middle linebacker was, quote, Joe Schobert or Damian Wilson. Like, well, what the heck is going on there? Now I know, because they were shopping him around looking to offload him. And of course, the story came out a couple of days ago. They were shopping around CJ Henderson, who's showing third on the depth chart. So they're just stripping it down, man. And this goes, the Steelers were terribly thin at linebacker. Were bad last year. Vince Williams just retired. And now they get Schobert to shore them up. And he's a little bit better fit in that defense maybe than in Joe Cullen's defense. And so, we talked a little bit. Throws a little shade at Devin Bush. It vaults Jack up the ranks. Miles Jack all of a sudden turns into, I would say he's an LB1 based on this. That's where I would put him right now. I'm pretty sure. I haven't really looked at my ranks, but that's super exciting for Jack. So it's this big night, man.
Now, Gary, quick question.
And he just found out.
He just found out. And still dropped that knowledge. Hey, Gary.
Yes, sir.
Is the Joe Schobert acquisition, though, about Spillane or Bush, do you think? Or is it purely a depth move?
Bush. I think Bush. I think it's a clear call for, because if Bush was getting it done, then they could have done a lot less than going after Joe Scholbert, that contract. Whatever the deal is. I think it's a lot about Bush. This whole year after I've said it multiple times on getting defensive, I've said it out on Twitter. Devin Bush had already slid down my rankings. And I mean, anybody that's seen my update tackle-based rankings on Fantasy Pros, I think Bush is like in the 30s. Don't quote me, but him and I dropped him and Patrick Queen a little bit from what most people did early in the year. Patrick's all right, but Bush has been in a void. For me, he's just been injured. When he's on the field, he has good games, but on average, he's not consistent. It doesn't surprise me. And I think this might change. I don't want Devin Bush people to run out and trade him. You're not going to get what he's worth now. So you might also wait until the dust settles. Let's see what's going on in camp. Unless somebody walks up and hands you a first round or a really good deal, they're trying to think they're going to sneak him out. But I thought he was already, because Joe Scholbert is going to be on that field every down, and traditionally that's all Pittsburgh uses. I mean, there's a definitely. I mean, Devin Bush might be a better talent or athlete, but Joe Scholbert's, Joe. We know that.
So reading the article about the trade on DKPittsburghSports.com by Dale Lawley, he stated that Schobert excels in coverage. Now, PFF has him rated at a 43.1, which was 67th in the league in coverage. So I'm not sure if this is one of those things where PFF is just, crazy. But is Joe Schobert good in coverage?
No, didn't you see the shocked face come over? I was like, that's, if he would have, then Cleveland would have paid him. If he was getting coverage, Cleveland would have paid him. When it really come down time for Scholbert to get paid, Cleveland had already made up their mind, So I think I don't think he's good in coverage. How about you, Trip?
I think he's okay in coverage. I think he's better in zone than in man, and I think that was the issue with his fit in Jacksonville, which is what I talked about a while back. And Miles Jack is a better man coverage guy, and so it makes a little sense there. And you put Schobert there next to Bush. You let Bush take the man assignments. You put Schobert in the zone assignments, and I think there's a chance both get on the field. I mean, like y'all said, I mean, the odds that both guys are full time in Pittsburgh just aren't very high because not many teams are rolling out two full time.
Yeah, they're not going to switch all of a sudden.
I think there could be something of a shift. Last year they just had nothing after Bush got hurt. It's like they're rolling out Spillane and Vince Williams, and it's about getting your best 11 on the field sometimes. And with Bush and Schobert, there's a better argument for two linebackers than there were with Spillane and Vince Williams.
Well, when it boils down to for me is that when Devin Bush was off the field, Spillane, Avery Williamson, somebody else probably played that middle inside linebacker spot in place of him and did well production-wise. We had a lot of hit and miss games with him. I'm nervous for Devin Bush owners, but I definitely am not saying go sell him for beans, folks. You kind of stuck at the moment now.
All right, quick hello to some guys in the comments. Roto Heat Craig said good evening to all of us, and one of my favorite guys, Matty Daddy, is out there tuning in. What's going on, Matty? All right, Ramblers, it's time to get rambling. Tonight we continue our divisional dive series, taking a look at the players you need and the players you need to avoid in your IDP leagues. And we're starting with the AFC South tonight, so what better place to start than Jacksonville based on this news? Gentlemen, what's going to happen in Jacksonville now that Schobert is gone? Trip?
I think that it starts off with Jack being the 3-down guy. I think he's up for a huge season. I looked at the other starters in front of him on the D-line. They're rolling out Malcolm Brown and Davon Hamilton and Roy Robertson Harris. These guys are space eaters. These guys are not pass rushers. They're going to do nothing but protect Jack, and he'll be just out there eating and just holy cow. And then you got Damian Wilson that comes over from Kansas City last year. I thought that was an interesting signing. Damian Wilson was relatively productive in KC. He was okay. He was kind of a surprise starter a couple of years ago. He was considered too big to play weak side linebacker. And then we found out that Steve Spagnuolo likes bigger linebackers and pushed out Dorian O'Daniel at the time. And so now he gets another chance in Jacksonville. And so he's a functional player. I don't expect him to be IDP useful unless you're in a heck of a deep league. But it's interesting. And I think it opens the opportunity for safeties to come in and play in the box a little bit more. And that was another thing that was curious on that depth chart. It listed 4 guys as possible starters as strong safety. In other words, they don't know yet. They're going to let the preseason play out. We know that Rayshon Jenkins starts at 1. He got the big money contract. And then the other one is just wide freaking open. Josh Jones is still in the mix, and he's like the size of a linebacker. If he gets the job, then he's an attractive IDP again. They have the 3rd round pick, Andre Sisco, in the mix, and a couple other Jags. Acronym Jag, not team name Jag.
literal Jags.
Yeah, so it's interesting. I mean, it shake things up. It's a rebuilding team with a lot of volatility.
Yeah. Now, one of the strange things I saw with Damian Wilson, and I was going to talk about it before Schobert left, looking at their measurables, first of all, first thing I noticed is they were both ranked 44. They tied in PFF. They're the same weight, 1 inch difference in height, 1 inch difference, 0.1 second and 40 time. They're basically very similar players. So it's interesting that they brought on Wilson and then traded Schobert. Like it's like a 1-for-1 shift.
Money thing.
I mean, maybe. I don't get Jacksonville. I know we talked a little bit, Gary. I'm not a fan of Urban Meyer. I think he's going to flame out in a massive way in Jacksonville.
That hurts. As a Buckeye, that hurts.
But I don't know. Am I just off? We talk about it on the Dirty O Pod all the time, but
I did kind of agree with you. It's either going to be a big sparkly flame for where he did real well and got lucky at the beginning, or it's going to be like, I don't know. Who could I compare it to? What was the Jets coach a few years ago during the Sanchez days?
Rex Ryan.
Oh, yeah, there's a flame out if I ever seen one.
Flame out?
Yeah.
We went to two championship games with Ryan. Oh, my word. Will the Jet slander never stop, Trip? Will it never stop?
They just keep bringing on themselves, boss. I don't know what to tell you.
All right. Let's look at the defensive line, though, in Jacksonville. We have Josh Allen. We have Kalavon Chason. Either of those guys worthwhile, Trip?
Well, first of all, Jacksonville's been clear with their depth chart that they're 3-14. So if you're in a conventional position league, I haven't heard the Gary Davenport's latest podcast, but I saw somebody in a forum talk about it, and he's saying that there's risk. Davenport is, according to this guy that I'm reading, that there's risk that he's going to look at Atlanta and Jacksonville and change them to 3-4 position designation. So that's the big risk there. I think that both players, if outside of that, I think Josh Allen and Kalavon Chason have some upside. But man, if you're in a conventional position league, you got to be nervous.
Once again, true position. They're edges. Right. Let them be edges. So if they are edges, Gary, where do you have these guys?
They're going to be standing up. I don't know. I just think probably, if I remember right, I'm trying to think. I think I had them beginning of the 3rd tier of I don't know, low 2 tier with Allen possibly, but you're working off upside, so it's kind of hard to leap past that. I'm more interested in what's his name, Roy, inside defensive tackle.
Roy Robertson Harris.
Yeah, the one they signed from Chicago. I'm keeping an eye on his production to see if he can do anything. Jaguars is one of those teams like Oakland and the Jets. Well, you can't say Jets interior because they got Williams, but some of those others like Oakland. where their interior defensive linemen really have not been worth anything. So maybe he'll bring. I don't know if he's playing the 2 or 3 technique. I just know he's floating around down there.
Technique. I think he's going to play the same spot as Derek Wolfe in Baltimore and not be worth much.
Yeah, I can go drop him. You know how? Because Strip blew my bubble out of the water.
Sorry, man.
I appreciate it. Yeah,
So for those of us in cornerback only leagues, anybody here? I mean, I like Shaq Griffin. He seems to have the right combination of skill, yet gets targeted a lot. Shaq Griffin usually puts up a good year for me when I have him in cornerback leagues. Anybody else to keep an eye on?
Tyson Campbell, the rookie. So they're looking at shopping C.J. Henderson around some. There is an outside possibility that Tyson Campbell is the starting corner and the boundary in base sets and moves into the slot in sub packages. That's what Marlon Humphrey did last year. That's what jacked him up each of the last 2 years to be the CB1 or 2. That is a guy who's a total sleeper that could be super useful in a quarterback required league. So that's a guy I'm keeping on, especially if C.J. Henderson goes ahead and gets traded, which at the rate we're going feels like 80% probability.
Yeah.
So I like Shaq Griffin too. I mean, it's the same thing with the Ravens. The Ravens play aggressively. Those corners get tackles. They blitz. They're going to bring guys from everywhere. And so, yeah, I think that you know just get a friggin' starter for the Jags at the corner. And if you're streaming, if you're draft and redraft, yeah, go ahead and grab one. Just take one, take 2 if you want. I mean, see what you get. You can always cut them.
Now, I don't do cornerbacks, but I do know enough to. I'm not going to disagree with Tripp over it. So, but I'll tell you, I've been watching the safety situation because I love the Jenkins signing. It was immediate. They paid him well. They brought him in. I know that if he brings any form of that defense that he had at Ohio State, I think he's got a big plan for Jenkins in it. I think that Jenkins ends up playing the strong safety. I believe that they're kind of looking at Jared Wilson, last year's starter, and the rookie Cisco. But after this trade, exactly what Tripp was mentioning, are we going to see a lot more 3 safety sets in there? I don't know. I think you did mention that, Tripp, didn't you?
Yeah, the depth chart listed Jenkins at free safety. I don't think it matters a lot. I think that they play
interchangeable
than one high, so I don't think it's a huge difference there. I think that they will interchange those safeties some. I think Jenkins will spend some time in the box. I mean, he's done all kinds of things. Jenkins is an interesting player because he came in the league with the idea that he was more of a box safety. And then he got
he's like 6'2", 6'3", 230.
Dude, yeah. And he got, and then he ended up earning the deep snaps and with the Chargers. I think the last year they were in San Diego, if I recall correctly. So he's shown that he can do a little bit of everything, which I think is why he was attractive to the Ravens. So the other is how it fits with the other guys. What's interesting, who the other guy is matters a lot. If it's Josh Jones, then Jenkins plays more deep. If it's Andre Cisco, well, Cisco's more of a free slot type guy.
Yeah, I forgot about Josh Jones. He's in there, ain't he? I forgot about that Trip, right? Josh Jones is in there, isn't he?
Yep.
Yeah.
And he'll be whatever happens, he's the dime sub-package linebacker. He's so he's still in the mix. But the question is he a full-time player or not? I would guess not, but you can't rule it out. If anything happened, it's just with what they have on defense. They don't have much. I mean, they got Jenkins, and then after that, it's like you said, they got Jared Wilson, who was Jared Wilson. I guess you'd have to, if you place in bets, you'd have to bet as a conservative bet that he holds on to the job they had last year. But anything could happen in preseason, especially with this. I mean, right? They're trading Henderson, they're trading Scholbert. These guys they just paid up for these guys, and they're going to deal them away. I mean, it's wide freaking open.
Yeah.
Anything is possible. Well, let's go from the outhouse to the penthouse. Start talking about the Tennessee Titans. I mean, if we start right up front in the middle. I love Jeffrey Simmons, especially of course, in DT required leagues. I think Jeffrey Simmons is a top 12 guy. And if you can get him, he's a solid guy to man the middle. Anybody you're looking at, Gary, in Tennessee?
Oh, I love Mari Hooker. He's taking a Vaccaro's spot as a strong safety. He happened to be a player that me and Jeff, Gridiron Ratings founder, We talked about him as what his role would be last year and a guy to watch. He came up some. Now he's taken over Vaccaro, who for the last 2 seasons has averaged like 85 combined tackles. That's actually a serviceable, guy if you're playing 3 DB or something. He can fit into that second, bring in a nice average each week, at least mostly. He was doing pretty good. But Amari Hooker has a lot more, I think, playmaking skills for the potential for some interceptions, passes defended, that type stuff, which I don't think Vaccaro really thrived at in his career. I think it was why Saints let him go. He wasn't really all that good in coverage, but he got the tackles. So I like him a lot.
Trip?
Guy I'm looking at for the Titans is Elijah Molden. It's deep leagues, but if you're looking at cornerback acquired league again, you have that guy plays some safety, he plays some slot, and the starters according to the depth chart are Jackrabbit Jenkins and Christian Fulton. And so Molden could come out there and do some of the same things that Logan Ryan did a couple of years ago, which is blitz, which is attack the flats, and do a lot of things. And that would be, if he can earn that job, that would be kind of interesting. And that's who I look for. It's interesting. Some folks, I'm pretty sure that the top scoring DB in Tennessee for each of the last 2 years has been a cornerback and not a safety.
Jeff, that was Gridiron Ratings founder, actually brought that up to me a couple of weeks ago, and I forgot about it. That's actually, I didn't know who was doing it or possibly doing it. That's a good one to know.
Let's move a little bit in between where we started and where we ended up. What about the linebackers? This is another situation, right? We have Bud Dupree and Harold Landry listed as LBs.
Yeah. I'm interested to see what Dupree will do if he can get healthy after his ACL or so. He was a 26th overall pick that year he was drafted, not that long ago. I don't think he's that old, 26, possibly 27, maybe. So he's still got some gas in the tank. I almost think that he could be more effective if fully healthy than Landry, but Landry's okay. Don't get me wrong. But Rashaan Evans, I'm not touching him. He's way down. He was even part-time last year with Brown out in some contest. And I think the only inside line, you can get good production out of Jayon Brown. What do you think, Trip?
Yeah, Jayon Brown is the only guy really that I'm super interested in this group. I think that Landry is a guy that's benefited from a ton of snaps. They've been talking for a couple of years in a row that they want to reduce his workload because they feel like he'd be more effective pass rusher. I think that there's something to be said for keeping your pass rushers fresh. Dupree, I think he's a possibility he goes to the PUP list. His injury was late in the season, so that worries me a little bit. So Jayon Brown, in terms of, I think he's underrated when it comes to just a conventional off-ball linebacker that you could plug in. You can get him at LB2 prices right now, and I think he's a nice safe bet in that spot.
Hey, Sinvin asked if we talked about Schobert yet and his impact on Dev Bush. We have, Sinvin. We talked about that right at the kickoff of the show. So after we're done, make sure you go back to the beginning and tune in. Gentlemen, is there anybody else that we want to talk about in Tennessee?
Nope, just smash the button on Jeffrey Simmons.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's then go to Indy. Me and my defensive tackle love, DeForest Buckner, baby. But he's usually a little too rich for my blood in any drafts. He's going way too early for me to get him. But, he's an elite defensive tackle. Grover Stewart's also pretty good. He's been playing well in his role, but there's no need to draft him anywhere. Gentlemen, anybody else on that defensive line who you guys are interested in?
I think Kwity Paye. Everything I've seen says he's the full-time end out there. And he looked like a guy coming in that looks more like a developmental project and needs some refinement in the pass rush. But everything I've seen indicates that he's going to be thrown out there at a full-time role in defensive ends means three-quarter time, but still, I mean, he's the lead guy out there, and there'll probably be a rotation at the other end, and they're looking for Pay to be the guy.
And I'm getting defensive. He's not the lead guy out there, but he probably will be. Don't knock Tyquan Jones or Lewis until he's getting his too. He's getting his too. I like the rookie though. I like the call trip, and he is. He did. Just looked at those reports earlier today, and all of them actually. Well, actually, your guy is hurt with an ankle injury, so I think there was somebody else in for him, another like a second-year player, Ty, something like that. But either way, I'm all about Lewis. But please, got more on. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
You're all good, bro. It's like you say, it's getting a fucking podcast.
Yeah, I like what they got going on there a lot. I like it. When they said in passing downs that they was kicking your rookie over on Lewis's regular side and putting Lewis on the inside. And both of them had sacks today, 11-11, I believe. They're performing well. They're doing well.
And the rotation seems to be working pretty well with Therese in there, Al-Qaeda and Muhammad, just a big body, edge setting type of guy. And then they drafted the injured rookie out of Vanderbilt, Deo Odeyingabo, I believe. So
he's on IR, ain't he?
I think he has an NFI right now, but I'm sure he will be going on to IR. I hope so I can stash him on IR in the leagues where I picked him up late. Roto Heat Craig said Pay got hurt. He's in a walking boot currently.
No. Yeah,
that's all right.
I didn't know there was anything.
I think it just recently happened. Yep.
Sounds like Lewis, if it's in a boot.
Lewis is in his fourth year. He's been hurt. He was a high draft pick for him. They have big plans. It was part of the reason I let Altry go, besides the Altry's age. They're going to use him. He's going to get every opportunity, and I kind of think it's like Stuart Grover, whatever his name is. Buckner was signed. He come in. He instantly made that entire defensive line better last year, instantly. And now you're looking at it that the guys are really coming together with the rush. Because again, I mean, Houston didn't have but like 3 sacks last year. Or did he even have any? I can't remember. But
actually had 7 or 8, I think. He actually was very efficient, I think, even though he didn't play.
I guess I haven't had Houston on my radar for a couple of years. But either way, I really like what they've got going on. And we got to realize these 11 on 11 drills, this is the top 3 offensive line from last year in most of their sites. So they're fighting it out. It's not like they're taking on a lesser offensive line in practice.
Like we said about the Bengals last week, it's easy to look good when you're rushing against the Bengals offensive line in practice.
Exactly.
Well, let's move a row back and let's talk about the linebackers. I mean, Darius Leonard set the world on fire as a rookie, and he seems to have maintained that consistently throughout. I mean, is he the LB1?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
He still has a higher career point per game average than Devin White had last year for that one season. How do you look away from that?
Yeah.
So I almost hate saying going on to the next guy after Darius Leonard's high, but Bobby Okereke, and he.
Right.
I mean, he had the second most snaps last year, but he's not good.
Yeah, I think it'll be productive by default. I don't think that they'll have, like him and Walker was mixing last year. It was about the 3rd or 4th game. Okereke, or whatever his name is, actually, how about we call him Bobby? Bobby actually sent Walker to the bench. He took over the starting position officially, like the 3rd or 4th game, but then he got hurt not long after that, and Walker got mixed right back in. Then for the rest of the season, they did favor Bobby again for a little bit, but they kept sharing snaps. I don't think that's, from what I've seen, that's not happening anymore. It's just going to be him, a full-time role. So production by default counts, folks. And you figure out what Walker made and he made, we could be looking at a low, it depends on where your tiers are, but a low LB1 if we're lucky in combined tackles. I don't think you're going to get a bunch of splash plays. You're not going to get the interceptions. You're not going to get the forced fumbles, but I think at least you can count on a decent little ceiling for some combined tackles. I know Leonard's a beast. I know that's how it is, but I do think there's enough meat on the bone there for Okereke to be a respectable play just by increased playing time.
Now, looking at the – oh, sorry. Go ahead, Trip.
Yeah, I agree. I think unless we hear reports that there's somebody that's pushing him, I haven't seen any of that. I mean, you got EJ Speed and Zaire Franklin, and
there's nobody there.
Like, who else is going to play? I mean, yeah, I agree that Bobby Okereke has been a disappointment, but in that defense, they're playing a fair amount of too high, and they have defensive linemen who are not tasked with making tackles, and there's room for two linebackers to just eat.
Mm-hmm.
Well, going to your favorite position, or is it mine? Cornerback. Xavier Rhodes made like a supreme comeback last year, like a resurgence. So is it going to be him and Kenny Moore? Are those the two guys I'm looking at as their starters?
Yep. And TJ Carey's coming on as the third guy. He'll play on the boundary. Kenny Moore will slide in the slot. And this is apparently the cornerback division because Kenny Moore is a candidate to be the overall CB1 too. He's a guy that comes in and he's like kind of like we talked about Logan Ryan, Elijah Molden, kind of like the Baltimore Jacksonville situation. The Kenny Moore blitzes a lot. He's coming at the edge. He's coming at the flats. And he's been productive corner for a couple of years now and for IDP leagues. And so to me, he's got to be the CB1. He's the safest bet to maintain that role. And so he's the guy, if I'm picking a cornerback, and not that I am typically reaching for a cornerback, but if I'm ranking them, he's probably got to be at the top of the heap.
Gary, what do you think of the safety room? Kari Willis, Julian Blackman?
Well, I mean, Blackman's probably not going to get much more production than what Hooker did there. I mean, it's just something about that free safety position. Normally, to me, I don't think they've been a very productive guy. It's kind of like the Saints, Wilson and deep down the field. I just don't know for sure about Blackman at all. Willis is a guy to own if you're looking at their safeties, but you got to realize too, I don't know if his ceiling's any higher than what we've seen. I mean, you got Okereke, you got Bobby, you got Darius. What are you going to do?
I love that we're on a first name basis here and getting defensive.
Yep. Call me, guys.
Trip, Kari Willis is the box safety when they use box safety.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he doesn't have the speed and athleticism to play deep, so Blackman has to do it. So when they're showing one high sets, it's Blackman deep, and Willis is in the box, and he's been productive. He's a guy that's kind of a try-hard guy and work ethic, and he's made an NFL career out of it. He's playing full time, so yeah, he's
he sent Gathers to the bench, right?
No, that was too long ago. It was Gathers got
Farley.
Matthias Farley played for and then they drafted. They drafted Willis in like the 5th round, I think, the following year, and Farley got pushed out.
Okay.
Yeah, I just came across his name. I don't even know where he is anymore. Someplace weird. So,
Farley?
Matthias.
Wasn't it like
I think he's in this
Miami?
division actually.
Wasn't it in Miami?
He was with the Jets, and he's with a new team. I can't remember which.
I thought he went to Miami.
Where's the cornerback Farley? Caleb Farley.
He's in Tennessee.
Tennessee. That's where I think Matthias Farley is, or went to. All right. Anybody else left?
Tennessee. He's in Tennessee too. The Farley brothers.
There you go. There you go. All they need is Chris. Rest in peace.
All right.
Anybody else we want to talk about here in Indy? All right. Last but not least, Houston. I don't even know what to say about Houston. Zach Cunningham, I mean, he's really the only person I would roster outside of possible cornerbacks. Is there anybody else you guys are looking at?
Yeah, if I could change my background to the poo emoji, I guess that would be the way to go. So I looked at their depth chart yesterday too. It's like what's going on? They got Charles Amenahu, who some folks like third team. They're showing Kirksey starting. They got Shaq Lawson second team. They got Bradley Roby first team, and he's like suspended for half the season. Oh gosh, what a mess this team.
What do you think of Lonnie Johnson? I'm curious of what you think about him, Trip.
I thought he was okay. He's on he's second team. Now maybe this is a situation where you shouldn't read too much in the depth charts, and maybe they just rank by age because that's about the only way I can explain it. They got Jordan Jenkins starting, got Eric Murray starting. Those guys.
Jordan Jenkins.
Yeah, I mean, come on now. Those guys aren't.
Come on now.
Yeah, they got to fix that, or hopefully see something different by the end of the year. So, but yeah, I mean, Lonnie, they're going to play a lot of too high though. So Lonnie Johnson is this guy that I'm grabbing in super deep leagues because he's free. I'm talking, Gary, we're in that 30 round league with IDP only. So yeah, I mean, if I need a warm body, then I'm picking Lonnie Johnson, but that's about it. Other than that, like JJ said, it's pretty much Zach Cunningham, and that's it. Yeah. Zach Cunningham's going to be out there for a lot of freaking snaps, and he's not very good in coverage, so they pick on him, and he gets eaten up there, but he has to tackle the guy that he allows to make a reception all the time, and so that adds up more. And yeah, that's the way to go.
Yeah. Well, the interesting thing with Lonnie Johnson I like is he's in most leagues, I think he's still marked as a QB. He did play some safety last year. He showed well when he did. I believe there was injury. No, maybe. I don't know. I know he played last year and he did pretty good. I'm sorry.
Played one game at cornerback and they moved him over, and he was functional. Yeah. I was surprised to show him second on the depth chart.
Right. So that cornerback designation, if he actually ended up being some type of third safety, or I don't know how well Eric Murray did for him last year deep. Right. So, but I was reading I was reading before, and he's been making plays in camp. His name was in a lot of articles. So I think he's.
But also, just to throw it out here, like your offensive line theory, who are the quarterbacks throwing the ball right now in Houston?
It's true too.
Might not be that hard to make a play on a ball.
True. Good point.
Cornerbacks. I always ask about cornerbacks. As you can tell, I'm in a lot of cornerback leagues, and I don't keep any in the off season. I just pick them up right now. So, Terrace Marshall, Terrence Mitchell, Vernon Hargreaves, anybody. I mean, they're terrible, but
I think Hargreaves is just like somebody's hurt and they're waiting for him to come back. I think and Hargreaves just like penciled in as a starter temporarily, maybe.
Yes, he's starting because Roby's suspended. When Roby comes back, though, this is what I like to look for in a corner. I like a guy that is a full-time player that starts on the boundary and base sets and moves into the slot in sub packages, and that's Roby. So he's an interesting play in this team. So it's cornerback division. Of course, you got to wait till he comes back from suspension.
Write that down, JJ.
I did. I have a whiteboard marker in my desk. I can actually write on it. I put all my notes right here and jot them down afterwards. In our comments, one of my buddies, the social media Sasquatch, joined in. Of course, he's a big Pittsburgh homer and wants to know about Schobert. Yeah, we know it's interesting. Yeah, they're going to be great, whatever. You got to watch Pittsburgh homers, man. They love their team. And I'm saying that as somebody who's going to Pittsburgh tomorrow, so be nice to me.
I bet they beat their chest tonight.
No. You know what he says there about Vince Williams? If that's the case, Vince Williams he played a lot of ball for them over the last years, and he has never amounted him. He's like Anthony Barr, but worse. So you know what I mean? They're just not an IDP play. Now Scholbert, I think, could improve on that. It depends how he's schemed. I'd be a little bit nervous. I don't know. It's that would make me nervous if he was playing that actual position the way they play it in that scheme. There's a reason Vince Williams was not as bad all those years as his IDP production. I don't think they kept bringing him back, he was a solid, contributing member. But it's kind of like that Anthony Barr thing. Anthony Barr will get you some sacks every once in a while, but combined tackles as an outside linebacker or strong side linebacker. I don't know. I just kind of compare the two. So I hope that Scholbert, if they do that, they got some kind of little tweak in what they're doing. They may, now that they've brought Ingram in, who knows? Someone like Ingram or even Highsmith could play the strong side linebacker position, and you get all three of those dudes. Could you imagine having Melvin, Ingram, Highsmith, Watt, Tuitt, Hayward, Scholbert, and Devin Bush? I don't know. That seems scary to me if they could ever possibly pull that off.
But then you just put 3 wide receivers on the field and they all have to go away.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. Gentlemen, anybody else we want to talk about in the AFC South? All right. Well, you guys did a bang-up job.
We should mention Justin Reed because there are folks that do like him. I don't think he's a bad player. What do you got for him for IDP purposes, Gary?
Oh, actually, I got him ranked. I mean, he's definitely in the upper tier 2 area for me. I mean, he's going to be like Cunningham. He's going to be productive by default, if nothing else. But I actually think he's a better player than just by default. I'm just saying he should. And I don't think Kirksey is going to last long. I mean, he hasn't lasted yet. He's been injured. I was on his bandwagon last year, and of course, he come out, did really well for a couple of games for Packers, and then nothing.
Well, I mean, he's only played 20 games in the past 3 seasons.
Yeah, he didn't do well for the Packers technically on the field so much, but he was productive for a couple of games.
Yeah, because all you have to
be clear, folks. There's NFL and IDP. I got a habit of talking IDP sometimes when I'm judging people.
Super deep sleeper call. Kevin Pierre-Louis. He's listed as the starting Sam on the depth chart. I don't think it's impossible that he plays more snaps than Kirksey. And the reason why he's interesting is because he's kind of your pure coverage linebacker that struggles to fit gaps. And that's the defense is Lovie Smith is still playing in Tampa too. He's still asking a middle linebacker to drop 20 yards downfield in the seam. And Kevin Pierre-Louis is the only guy that has a prayer on that roster of being able to do that with any proficiency at all.
That's a good call, Trip.
I'd be interested to see what comes of that guy.
I've always liked Pierre-Louis. I actually wrote an article about him a few years ago while he was, what's Chicago?
Yeah, he's with Chicago. He's Washington.
Yeah. He started out in Kansas City, I believe. Yeah.
Seattle at one point.
Right. I think he got in some trouble while he was in Kansas City. They released him, and then Chicago picked him up. I'm not sure. Something along that line. But I agree with you 100%, Trip. If when Kirksey goes down, or if Kirksey falters, Pierre-Louis could actually. I mean, he'd be the coverage guy, just like he was talking about, that they probably need. And it's going to be productive. They don't have to have good players. They don't plan on winning, I don't think.
What do they plan on doing? I have no idea.
Well, as far as KPL, he is the highest rated linebacker they have, according to PFF. PFF had him as linebacker 14 last year. Right. That's the exact face I made, Trip.
Right.
The exact face I made.
Well, one of the things that you got to know about PFF is that if you're not out there, you can't get a bad grade. Right. And so come here, a little player.
He
qualified for 2% or 3,000 or something. I don't know.
All right, gentlemen. Well, that wraps up the AFC South. Make sure you follow Trip at the Dynasty Trip on Twitter. You can find his work at the Dynasty Football Factory. Trip, any final words?
Football night. Go football.
I was going to address Sandra Wilson real quick. She just put a comment in. We do not know what the Jags got for Scholbert yet. At least by when we started this, they hadn't announced that yet. I'm sorry, Trip, if I interrupted you.
Good man.
Wild man, my cornerback connection. I'll be getting a hold of you. I got to figure a few things out. I'm trying to learn. I'm just going to start listening to your pods, just chase you around. And I'm glad you're a part of this one, Trip. So
thanks, man. It's good to be here.
With you, JJ.
Absolutely. Well, Gary, you can find Gary at the IDP Tipster on Twitter. Make sure that you're subscribing to the Gridiron Ratings for all of his IDP analysis. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm at JJ Wenner. You can find me also at Rider Dynasty hosting a podcast over there. Thank you, Trip. Thank you, Gary, for joining us tonight. Thank you to everyone who tuned in and left comments for us. And make sure that you're tuning into the Tuesday edition hosted by Roto Heat Craig. That's at 10 o'clock on Tuesdays. And don't forget, subscribe below for a chance to win the Gridiron Ratings Playbook. Remember, your path to the title starts with Gridiron Ratings. Good night, everyone.
Good night.